My name is Haley Monroe, I'm 23 years old, and today was supposed to be the proudest day of my life. Graduation. 4 years of late nights, skipped parties, and juggling 2 part-time jobs. All of it was leading to this moment. But this morning, my phone buzzed with a text from my mom. Haley, I scheduled my knee surgery for June 12th. It's the only date they had. You'll have to miss graduation. I froze. June 12th. My graduation day. I called her immediately, my heart pounding, hoping this was just a mistake. But she sounded irritated, not apologetic. Haley, don't start. This is about my health. You can walk the stage next year. Next year. I worked for this year. I worked through anxiety attacks, $8 menu dinners, stayed up until sunrise writing research papers, all to make this day happen. I tried to tell her how important it was, how I wanted her to be there, cheering me on. But she cut me off before I could finish. You're acting selfish. I can't believe you'd make this about you when I'm about to have surgery. Her words stung so deeply I couldn't breathe for a second. Somewhere between anger and heartbreak, I realized, this wasn't just about surgery. This was about a lifetime of moments where I came second. And for the first time in my life, I wondered if I was finally done accepting that. Growing up in Maple Ridge, Ohio, meant growing up in my mom's shadow. My mom, Linda Monroe, was the kind of woman who made her problems the center of every room she walked into. When I was little, I used to think she just had bad luck. There was always something wrong, a migraine that lasted all weekend, a sore back that meant we couldn't go to the park, a friend crisis that made her too upset to cook dinner. My dad, Charles Monroe, worked long hours as a truck dispatcher and barely got involved. His favorite phrase was, "Just do what your mom says, Haley. It's easier that way." So I did. I became the quiet kid, the one who kept the house running, folding laundry, helping my younger cousin with homework when she came over, making sure dinner didn't burn when mom was too tired. I didn't complain, not even when I missed birthday parties because mom had a flare-up and needed me home. I thought if I was good enough, helpful enough, quiet enough, maybe one day she'd notice. Maybe she'd look at me the way she looked at my cousin Brianna, who she called my little angel, because Brianna lived nearby and always brought her handmade cards. But no matter what I did, Mom always found something wrong. If I got a B+ in school, she'd say, "Well, why wasn't it an A?" When I got into my dream college on scholarship, she didn't say congratulations. She said, "I hope you're not expecting us to help with moving costs. Money's tight." Still, I kept trying. Because in my head, graduation day was supposed to be different. She was supposed to sit in the crowd, clap, maybe cry a little. I thought that would be the day she'd finally say she was proud of me. But looking back now, I should have known better. My needs had never come first. Not once. College wasn't easy for me. I didn't have parents sending me care packages or paying my rent like some of my classmates. Instead, I worked late nights as a barista at Riverbend Coffee and spent weekends babysitting for neighbors. There were nights I came home so exhausted, I'd collapse on my dorm bed still in my apron. I'd wake up with coffee stains on my jeans and my laptop still open with half-written essays. But I kept going. Every test I passed, every semester I survived. I imagined the look on Mom's face when she saw me in my cap and gown. That fantasy kept me warm on nights when I skipped dinner to afford textbooks. My friends would say, "Haley, you work too hard. Take a break." But I couldn't. I wasn't just graduating for me. I was graduating to prove I was worth noticing. I still called home every week, even though the conversations were one-sided. Mom would talk about her back pain, her fight with a neighbor, the price of groceries. When I'd mention how stressed I was about finals, she'd say, "Everyone's stressed, Haley. That's life. Toughen up." The night before my senior thesis presentation, I stayed up until 4 a.m. because my printer jammed. I cried, fixed it, and still showed up to class looking polished. When I texted Mom that I'd passed, all she wrote back was, "Good. Don't get cocky." I told myself it didn't matter, that the big day was coming, and it would make everything worth it. Graduation wasn't just a ceremony for me. It was my finish line, my redemption arc. I spent weeks saving up to buy my own cap and gown, even splurging on a pair of shoes I'd been dreaming about, my big day shoes. I pictured Mom sitting in the crowd, Dad maybe even smiling for once. I pictured taking photos with them after, posting them online with a caption about how much they'd supported me. But then, just weeks before the ceremony, the text about Mom's surgery shattered that dream in one blow, like everything I'd worked for had just been erased. The day after Mom's text, I drove to my parents' house. I wanted to look her in the eye and explain, no beg, for her to reschedule the surgery. She was sitting at the kitchen table with her laptop open, scrolling through social media. I said softly, "Mom, I know your knee hurts, but can't we just find a date that isn't my graduation day?" She didn't even look up. "Haley, I already told you, this is the soonest they had. You can graduate again next year. Stop making this about you." I felt my voice shake. "Mom, I've worked so hard for this. I wanted you there. For once." She finally looked at me, but her face was cold. This selfish attitude is exactly why I don't tell you things. You think the world revolves around your little ceremony. My health matters more than a walk across a stage. Dad sat silently in his recliner, staring at the TV, pretending none of this was happening. And in that moment, I realized no one was going to stand up for me. Not my dad, not anyone. The tears burned my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. Instead, I grabbed my coat, walked to the door, and said, "Fine. Don't come. I'll celebrate without you." The door slammed behind me so hard the picture frames rattled. For a second, I just stood in the driveway, breathing hard, my hands shaking. Something inside me felt strangely calm, like this was the last time I'd beg anyone to care about me. It was the moment I decided I wasn't going to keep chasing their approval. That night, I sat alone in my tiny apartment, staring at the graduation tickets I'd been saving for months. I'd imagined handing them to my parents with a proud smile. Now they just felt like scraps of paper mocking me. I cried until my chest hurt. But somewhere between sobs, a strange thought came. What if this time, I stopped trying to make them proud? It felt terrifying, but also freeing. I decided I was still going to graduation, but for me, not for them. I invited my best friend, Sierra Blake, who had been my rock through every all-nighter. She showed up in a bright yellow dress and the biggest smile, yelling louder than anyone when my name was called. When I walked across that stage, I didn't look for my mom in the crowd. For the first time, I didn't need to. I felt proud. For me. After the ceremony, Sierra and I went out for burgers and milkshakes. It wasn't the family celebration I dreamed of, but it was real, and it was enough. The next morning, I started packing my apartment. I sold old furniture online, donated half my clothes, and found a cheap one-bedroom rental in Columbus. It wasn't fancy, the carpet was worn and the kitchen tiles didn't match, but it was mine. I picked up extra shifts at Riverbend Coffee, and within a month, I could pay my own rent without asking my parents for anything. Slowly, I built a life that felt like my own. I joined a book club, met people who actually listened when I talked, and started journaling every night. And for the first time in years, my anxiety started to quiet down. Some days, I still felt guilty, like maybe I really was selfish for putting distance between me and my family. But every time I remembered Mom's words, "You can graduate next year," I reminded myself I deserved to celebrate this year. I didn't disappear out of spite. I disappeared to find myself. And every day, I felt a little closer to who I was meant to be. It had been 3 months since graduation when the first message came. A text from Mom. "My surgery went fine. You'd know that if you cared enough to check in." I stared at the screen, feeling that old familiar guilt trying to creep back in. But this time, I didn't take the bait. I typed back a polite, "I'm glad you're okay," and left it at that. A week later, my cousin Brianna called me. "Haley, Everyone's talking about how you abandoned Aunt Linda during her surgery. They're saying you didn't even visit. I felt my jaw tighten. I wasn't invited, I said flatly. Soon after, Dad left me a voicemail, his first in months. Haley, your mom's feelings are hurt. She thinks you hate her. Maybe you should come by and make peace. I almost laughed. Make peace. Where were they when I was begging them to be proud of me? Then came the final blow, a Facebook post from Mom herself. Some daughters only care about themselves. You really see who loves you when you're sick. It was a public post, with relatives commenting, praying for you, and you deserve better. For a split second, I wanted to drive over there, to defend myself, to make her see my side. But then I looked around my little apartment, my own dishes drying on the rack, my graduation photo pinned to the fridge, and I realized I didn't owe anyone an explanation. That night, I blocked Mom's Facebook account. Not out of anger, but to protect the peace I'd worked so hard to build. For once, I chose not to go back. And instead of feeling guilty, I felt strong. It's been almost a year since that day in my parents' kitchen. Sometimes I still think about what my graduation day could have been. The photos we didn't take, the hugs I didn't get. But when I look at where I am now, I don't feel broken anymore. I feel free. I've built a life where my worth isn't measured by how loud my mom claps for me, but by how proud I am of myself. I still send my parents a holiday card every Christmas, but I no longer wait by the phone for a response. I've learned that loving someone doesn't mean letting them hurt you over and over again. Sometimes love means creating space, so their storms don't drown you anymore. Walking away wasn't easy, but staying would have meant losing myself completely. If you're listening to this and wondering if it's selfish to choose yourself, it isn't. It's survival. Family should make you feel safe, supported, and celebrated. If they don't, you have every right to create that safety somewhere else, even if you have to build it from scratch. My graduation wasn't ruined. It was the beginning of my real life. And today, when I think about the girl who walked across that stage in her big day shoes, I don't just feel proud, I feel grateful. Because she finally stopped waiting for permission to shine.